What can we expect for the energies for the week of September 8th through the 14th? Welcome to Trevor's Tarot Astrology and Spirituality. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos. Sharing the videos in particular helps the algorithm, as does watching the videos all the way to the end. Commenting, of course, helps as well, as does liking the videos. So for all of those things, thank you, thank you, thank you. This channel is really starting to grow in the last few weeks, so hopefully that pace will continue. Okay, so the week of the 8th. So I'm recording this on Sunday, the 7th, right around the eclipse time. Um, so we'll be coming out of the lunar eclipse. Now, I think, there are moments of clarity this week, but they're moments. They might last as much as 4 or 5 hours, but they're moments. It's not like complete clarity. Um, it's not like that at all. In fact, I think there's a lot of worry this week. There's a lot of being frightened by some of the actions on the geopolitical front. But then there's like this reprieve of clarity and putting it in like perspective is too strong of a word, but integrating it into your personal life, I guess. Um, in which but it's an uncomfortable feeling because where there's suffering in the world, there's that we suffer. It's just the way it is. Those of us that are empathic in particular, we feel the suffering, regardless of where it's at. And it's an undercurrent that sometimes it feels like dread in the morning. It feels like a here we go again type of emotion. It feels like an uncontrolled roller coaster ride without an end. So there's that undercurrent energy that's going to be there for a while, and it's been there for a while, and we've talked about it. Um, but I do think, we move from we have these moments of clarity throughout the week, and we have also moments of fear and anxiety and helplessness, but it changes. Like there's this big change that happens. I don't think this is until around midweek, but maybe on Thursday, for example, that feels like the turning point where things turn into clarity, and not moments of clarity, but long-lasting periods of clarity where the future's almost seeable. It'll remain unseeable, but it's almost seeable. Like we can almost realize what our lives look like 6 months from now. But the fear and the anxiety, I think it kind of takes back over. And this is just part of the nature of being between the two eclipses. So I do think sleep improves a little bit, a few days this week. Overall, I'm not sure that it does for everybody. I do think there's a lot of unusual aches and pains this week, like waking up with a sore back. I'm getting that for a lot of people. And you're thinking, well, I just woke up. Why is my back sore? And it doesn't really make a lot of sense. There's going to be a lot of this tossing and turning in our sleep without realizing it. So you might wake up with the bed looking more messy than normal. I think that's been going on for a while. It's just I guess I kind of just haven't mentioned it in the list of priorities of things. But little aches and pains, feet hurting, in particular, lower backs, and a little bit of neck pain in the sort of the throat chakra. And part of this is just because, we really don't feel like we have a voice. I think that's really kind of the body's way of trying to get us to use our voice, at least to advocate for ourselves, if not for others. So it's an unusual week, as are most weeks that are between eclipses, but uh, it doesn't it neither feels good nor bad. It just feels like a mix. It's like a kind of a hodgepodge potluck of any given day could be quite different than the previous day, which is why I think there's some hopefulness. Um, and I do think that there's some clarity, and then I do think, some unusual aches and pains. This is partly because we slept better. Particularly, I feel like Monday night's going to be a great night for sleep. Um, and when we sleep better, then our muscles relax, and then they ache. We've talked about this before. The tension being released. Right? What's the messages for the collective for the week of the 8th through the 14th of September 2025? Uh, Harness mystic power, the high priestess. Um, Embrace if we take the tarot definition of the high priestess, which is things behind the scenes, most of the time that's working for us. Um, and I think that's the case here. So it's almost like a trust, like a trusting that the behind the scenes actions are working towards a better resolution. And then also pulling upon them. So if you're spiritual, using prayer, for example, there's a couple of you that I see that have been lighting candles. Like it's been almost a ritual of lighting a candle almost every day. Um, that's exactly the kind of thing we're talking about here. You know, a couple more of you. It's I think you're getting into this routine because the nights have been a little bit cooler where you're at of making a pot of herbal tea or a cup of herbal tea. These are all part of that harnessing the mystic powers. It might not seem like making a cup of tea is a big deal, but when it becomes a ritual, that's when it becomes power. So continuing these rituals or starting them if we haven't started one yet. And it can be as simple as lighting a candle, at the same time every day, or roughly the same time, doesn't have to be exact. Um, wishing our well wishes for the world, uh, you know, taking the 3 minutes before we fall asleep to list a couple things that we're grateful for. All of these things I think will help as we move into this next phase of the year, which will start at around mid-October, it feels like. The elder healing through lineage. We keep getting this. I think this has come up several weeks in a row, or maybe it came up in the eclipse reading. And then here, all of those things that we've learned, um, whether it's from parents or grandparents or great grandparents that have been passed down, whether they're true or not, whether they really are family lineage stories or not, is unimportant. Um, they're true, right? There's something to them. There's, a reason why, uh, we don't eat really green bananas. There's a really reason why, we don't eat after a certain time period of the night. And this has been passed down for ages. Whether we listen to it or not is a different story. But I think if we do listen to these advices that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation, I think that we'll be in a better place as well. And the last one is the she wolf, uh, unleash the wild within. Um, yeah, I could see this as well. this we have the full moon on Sunday with the lunar eclipse, and this kind of just to hell with what people think, I guess, type of attitude, I think can be quite powerful. So if you're feeling in that zone and you're wanting to not just advocate for yourself, but for others, I think this is a good week to do that. I do think that it'll make you feel better. Now, advocacy can take on many forms as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be kind of a confusing week, but and with little aches and pains along the way. But there's going to be at towards the end of it, there's a hopefulness to it. There's like a being able to see 6 months down the road and realize things are better. Uh, but I do feel that that's fleeting. Like I don't think that lasts forever, so you could miss it. So try not to miss it because I do think it'll bring some comfort. Okay, so what do we need to know from the tarot? We need to know from the tarot. Yeah. Somebody's been having problems with their car. That gets resolved this week, so um, that's good. No, no, let's don't worry about that. Um, it's still a good week to manifest a new job. I know it's getting harder and harder to find a new job. If you're unemployed, it's getting scarier. Um, but it's there. Just keep trying to manifest. Yeah, integrating little spiritual practices. Some of you have talked to me about how you've made your money bowl, lighting a candle in front of the money bowl um, on a daily basis. Just a little one that only lasts for an hour or so. It can be a really good thing to do. It's an action, right? Having actions, I think, are important this week to negate the feelings of dread and anxiety. Whether the action is as simple as setting up, a place to light a candle. Maybe it means clearing off a desk that has become, just overrun with papers and isn't really wouldn't be safe to light a candle, but the act of cleaning the desk, it didn't even necessarily have to involve a candle. The act of somebody's needing to find a new place to put their pots and pans, like where you have them just isn't working for you, like the lids get lost behind. Um, Figuring that out. Uh, Now, of course, you don't have to. I'm just saying, those are the types of things that are going to make us feel better, like give us a sense of accomplishment. But that sense of accomplishment could be really obtained quite simply by just, lighting a candle, saying a prayer. Um, you know, Somebody's going to start a new skin regimen. I think that kind of goes along the same lines of self-care. Like I think if we can pull in these self-care moments, whether it's, you know, gifting ourselves the time to take care of our skin or our um, you know, soaking our feet for some, because our feet are gonna there's gonna be achy feet this week. Epsom salt baths, these types of things, I think make everything feel better. I'm not saying you have to do them. I'm just saying I think they'll make you feel better. Um, All right, let's see what the tarot's got for us. Definitely see, there's a lot of worry. Um, Five of Pentacles type of energy and Five of Cups type of energy as well. Of course, fives are about change. Eclipses bring about change, so that makes perfect sense to me. We get the Emperor card. There's a lot of worry about the geopolitical front and abuses of power. There just is. Um, there's a lot of worry about whether people running the show actually know what they're doing, like cognitively. Are they even capable? So that's kind of the underlying anxiety for a lot of us, I think, is that the world feels out of control because the people running it feel out of control. So, not really a political statement, just a fact. And whether you're a supporter or an opposer, which most likely you're an opposer if you're watching this channel, but um, it doesn't matter. It's still the same energies for everybody. And that's this like untrusting nature of the governments. But alas, things move forward, and this is big progress this week. And I think that's why towards the end of the week, there is this hope. There's this like ability to see the future. Um, not 10 years down the road, not 20 years down the road, but just like 6 months. And just being able to see yourself, for some of you in the same house, because I think you're worried about your house, um, knowing that that's going to work itself out, I think is a huge gift. But we can miss it if we don't take this time. I guess that's what I've been trying to say about lighting the candles and taking the baths and the showers and taking a few minutes before bed. You're not going to get glimpses of the future if you don't look for them. It's a conscious effort. So I think it's highly important. The Three of Wands, a lot of people are thinking about going overseas. Now, most of this is just daydreaming. Um, Now, if you're just planning a trip overseas, that's a totally different story. I think there's some of you that are doing that too, and that should be fine. Particularly, I think Italy's coming to mind for a couple of you. But this is more like, dreaming of moving overseas, particularly people in the United States and in the UK. Um, it's just a dream. There's nothing wrong with it. Uh, if it makes you more comfortable to sit down and watch, a bunch of videos on Costa Rica on YouTube and think about, could I afford to live in Costa Rica? Go for it. There's nothing wrong with it. Will it turn into reality? For some, probably. But for most of us, no, it's just a daydream. It's a coping mechanism, is what it is. But it gives hope. Like it's a solution is presenting itself. Now, later solutions will really present themselves that are easier to obtain. The Seven of Wands. Yeah, I mean, we're quite defensive. This is going to be a penny pinching week. And there's some married couples out there where, you're not on the same page of this idea that this is a penny pinching week. And so when your spouse shows up with a bunch of stuff from the hardware store or from the grocery store or whatever, it's kind of frustrating. So clearly communicate that this is for you feels like a very important week to watch our money. It's not that we don't spend any money this week because that's almost impossible to do, but it's like there's no extravagant purchases. We're buying the chicken on sale at the grocery store this week. We're not buying, steaks and lobsters. And we're just talking about food, right? Being extravagant with food. Uh, Definitely not buying bigger ticket items unless they're absolutely necessary. So make sure you communicate that if you are in a relationship with a significant other that if that is your desire, and it might not be, you might be the one that wants to spend money, and your significant other might be the penny pincher. But that energy is here too. Here's the Five of Cups I was seeing in the scramble, and it's at the center of the reading. It is a feeling of loss. Um, but all grief comes to an end at some point. Well, maybe it doesn't end, it morphs into something else. And I think, we can easily spin down this rabbit hole, right? If we look at the imagery here, we can easily spin down this hole. Uh, but I think most of us choose not to. I think most of us choose to acknowledge that things are not the way they used to be and try to move forward in a constructive way. And I think that's why the hope comes about for the later part of the week for us. And the high priestess, just really confirmation from the oracle cards, too. There are things behind the scenes that are working in our favor. There really are. It's hard to trust that, but it's true. The Five of Wands, the eclipses are about change. This is internal battles, could be external as well, but I think for us, it's mostly this internal battle of just trying to figure things out, which is a step up from just living in dread and worry. So it's now we're kind of moving into this action phase. So this actually is quite good progress. It might not feel that way, but it really quite is. Um, I do think that there's a lot of internal struggles here around money in particular, but also just um, the loss of self-worth. I think it's so easy to lose our self-worth, and it's hard to get it back. And so we'll do things that we don't really want to do, and then we'll beat ourselves up about them. So being crystal clear with our boundaries this week, I think, is important. And then we get the Empress energy in the bottom center here. I like that. This is a nurturing. This is where we start to nurture ourselves through lighting candles, through saying our prayers, through taking foot soaks and bubble baths and showers, and um, trying out some new skincare products that I feel like I feel like they've been in the drawers for a while. We just haven't tried them. Um, so we don't have to go and buy them. We have them already. Uh, I think these things are nurturing. Playing around with your money bowl if you did that exercise. Uh, just cleaning off your desk. These nurturing things, they're important. They're really important this week. I can't stress that enough because it takes away this feeling of loss. It stops the spinning down the hole and turns it into something productive. And I think that's what this week in particular is really about, is like saying, you know what, this loss is not necessarily part of my personal being. And that doesn't mean we don't empathize with others that are experiencing loss. Um, but we have to nurture ourselves first. If we're not healthy, we can't help anybody else. And we get judgment. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of self-criticism here. Um, but that's okay. So the geopolitical front of the abuses that are going on and the atrocities that are going on in the world really do give us a deep sense of loss and, causes a lot of judgment. Our own internal battles can give us a deep sense of loss and cause us to look for exit routes, right? Looking for off ramps. But if we can take the time, we can realize that there is forward movement, that yes, we still need to be defensive, but there are things working for us behind the scenes. And we have the ability to nurture ourselves and make ourselves feel better, even if for a moment. Even if for just somebody's putting on songs uh, on YouTube from It's a band from the 90s. I know this song. Um, the the Counting Crows. Can Yeah, some of the songs are more melancholy, but some of them are pretty upbeat. Um, yeah, so maybe we're finding nostalgic music on YouTube. Um, yeah, everything's kind of heading in the same direction. The fiery messages are coming, and we are going to find unlikely comfort in bizarre places. Whether it's music on YouTube, uh, people's travel vlogs on going to Costa Rica, whether it's you know, rewatching some stuff from our childhood. Uh, there's all sorts of nurturing activities going on, and nobody gets to define what's nurturing to you except for you. So you'll figure it out. So, like I said, I just feel like there are moments of, being kind of feeling helpless and scared and anxious, but it moves into like this clarity and this self-nurturingness. So I do think that overall this could be a highly learning week. And um, if you've ever done a private reading with me, learning weeks are painful in the sense of they're just not that straightforward. But once we get through them, we've learned the lesson and we don't have to relearn it again as long as we take the time to learn it. So, take the time to nurture yourself. Take some moments out to breathe. Take some moments out to create a ritual, whatever it is. I think somebody doesn't want to do a money bowl, but you're putting money into like a mailing envelope, and you're trying to do this on a regular basis. Perfect. Not everything has to be like exactly perfect, right? Does it it doesn't really matter. Um, the I think we're supposed to have this card here, clearing out the clutter, clearing out our desks, clearing out the junk drawers, rearranging the pots and pans. That's a big one for somebody because they've really been bothering you. Um, getting the pantries just right. If we're fortunate enough to have the extra food on hand, I think just organizational skills here can make us feel better. The scarab beetle magic works through you. It doesn't just happen. We don't just suddenly manifest money. There's effort into it. There really is. Does that mean you need to go and make money oil and then make a money bowl? No, not necessarily. What it means is you have to put some effort into it. You have to at least concentrate your thoughts towards it and meditate on it or something along those lines, whatever it means for you. But magic works through us. It doesn't happen just by itself. Um, yeah, and this is the self-worth thing we were talking about, knowing your worth. Um, I mean, we can all be skunks sometimes, right? I mean, people around us could be skunks too, and we don't want to be around them. But if we know our worth, we don't need to set off the scent, right? We're safe, we're protected, we know our worth. Um, so we're not acting out of a place of fear. And then the fox spirit thinking on your feet. I think um, this is this is this is going through this for some of you. This is definitely going through the weekly sales ads at the grocery stores, um, and thinking about what we can put in the freezer, what we can put in the pantry, and also what we can give to the food banks too. Um, and call ahead on those, by the way, because sometimes they just want money. Uh, and then they'll decide what to get with that. And then the groundhog spirit. This has come up a few times in the last couple of months. It's time to let go. It's time to realize that our sphere of influence is this. It's not this. Our sphere of influence is rather small. That doesn't mean that it's not big enough to create change. It's just, it's not as big as we like to think. So it's time to kind of surrender in a sense. And it's also a time to realize that if we're not healthy, we can't help anybody else. So nurturing ourselves, I think, is super important this week. I think it's going to be a good week. I think it's going to be a roller coaster, but most weeks are anyhow. So, all right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.